The alarm bells are ringing, and most Americans have no idea what's coming. Right now, as I'm speaking to you, 127 million Americans are sitting on a financial time bomb that could detonate at any moment, wiping out decades of their life's work in a matter of months. And the scariest part, the majority of them think they're financially secure. I'm talking about the largest generation in American history, the baby boomers, who control over 70% of all wealth in the United States. These are people who played by all the rules, saved diligently, bought homes, invested in their 401ks, and are now discovering that the very system they trusted is about to betray them in ways they never imagined. What you're about to learn in this video will fundamentally change how you think about retirement, real estate, and the American economy. Because we're not just facing a recession or a market correction. We're staring down the barrel of a perfect storm that combines collapsing real estate values, a currency crisis, and a retirement system built on quicksand. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why financial experts are quietly calling this the greatest wealth transfer in human history. And more importantly, you'll know what you can do to protect yourself before it's too late. Let me start with a story that perfectly illustrates what's happening right now. Meet Susan, a 67-year-old retired teacher from Phoenix. She and her husband bought their home in 1985 for $89,000. Over the decades, they watched it appreciate to what they believed was worth $850,000. This house represented their entire retirement strategy. They planned to downsize, pocket the difference, and live comfortably on the proceeds, plus their modest pensions. But Susan's story is about to take a devastating turn, and it's happening to millions of Americans just like her right across the country. Here's the first domino in this catastrophic chain reaction. The baby boomer generation, roughly 76 million Americans born between 1946 and 1964, are hitting retirement age at a rate of 10,000 people per day. Think about that number for a moment. Every single day, 10,000 Americans are transitioning from earning income to needing to liquidate their assets to survive. Now, where's the vast majority of boomer wealth concentrated? Real estate. According to the Federal Reserve's latest survey of consumer finances, the median American household has 68% of their net worth tied up in their primary residence. For boomers, this percentage is even higher, often reaching 80 to 90% of their total wealth. This creates what economists call a liquidity crisis. You have tens of millions of people who need to convert their homes into cash to fund their retirement. But here's the problem. They're all trying to do it at the same time. Supply and demand is the most fundamental principle in economics. And what we're witnessing is the largest supply shock in residential real estate history. When 76 million people need to sell their homes over the next 15 to 20 years, the generations behind them are smaller, less wealthy, and burdened with student debt. You get a mathematical impossibility. Generation X, the group that should be buying these boomer homes, has only 65 million people. Millennials, despite being a larger generation, are dealing with student loan debt that averages over $37,000 per person, wage stagnation, and housing prices that have already priced many of them out of the market. But the residential real estate crisis is only the beginning. The second domino is commercial real estate. And this is where things get truly terrifying. Commercial real estate represents approximately $14 trillion in value across the United States. Office buildings, shopping centers, warehouses, apartment complexes. Much of this sector is owned by boomers, either directly or through real estate investment trusts in their retirement portfolios. The commercial real estate market is facing its own perfect storm. Remote work has permanently reduced demand for office space. E-commerce has devastated retail properties. Rising interest rates have made refinancing existing commercial loans nearly impossible for many property owners. Here's a number that should keep you awake at night. Approximately $1.5 trillion in commercial real estate loans are coming due for refinancing between now and 2027. Many of these loans were originated when interest rates were near zero. Now property owners are facing refinancing at rates that are 400 to 500% higher than their original loans. The result, mass defaults, foreclosures, and a commercial real estate collapse that will ripple through every bank, pension fund, and retirement account in America. Remember, these aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. These are the assets that millions of retirees are counting on to fund their golden years. But wait, it gets worse. The third domino is the most dangerous of all. The systematic debasement of the US dollar and the explosion of government debt. As of today, the United States national debt stands at over $38 trillion. To put that in perspective, that's approximately $12,000 for every man, woman, and child in America. The annual interest payment on this debt alone is approaching $1 trillion per year. Here's what most people don't understand about this debt crisis. The government has only 3 ways to deal with this level of debt. They can raise taxes dramatically, they can cut spending drastically, or they can inflate the debt away by printing more money. Political reality makes the first 2 options nearly impossible. No politician wants to be the one to tell voters their taxes are doubling or their benefits are being cut. So, they choose option 3, inflation. The Federal Reserve has already printed over $6 trillion since 2020. That's more money creation in 4 years than in the previous century combined. Every dollar they print dilutes the value of every dollar you own. It's a hidden tax on savers, and it disproportionately hurts retirees on fixed incomes. Now, let me connect all these dots for you. Boomers are trying to sell their real estate into a market flooded with supply and limited demand. The commercial real estate they own, either directly or through their retirement accounts, is collapsing, and the dollars they receive from any sales are being systematically devalued through inflation. It's a triple threat that attacks their wealth from every angle simultaneously. Let's go back to Susan's story. She put her Phoenix home on the market in early 2024, expecting to get close to that $850,000 valuation. 6 months later, after 2 price reductions, she sold for $720,000. But here's the kicker. After paying off her remaining mortgage, closing costs, and capital gains taxes, she netted about $580,000. She then went to buy a smaller home for her retirement, only to discover that even the smaller homes in desirable retirement communities were priced at $450,000 to $500,000. After purchasing her new home, she was left with less than $100,000 in cash, nowhere near enough to fund a comfortable retirement. Susan's story is being repeated millions of times across America, and it's just the beginning. The psychological impact of this wealth destruction cannot be overstated. These are people who worked for 40 to 50 years, saved diligently, and followed every piece of traditional financial advice they were given. They were told that real estate always goes up, that diversified portfolios are safe, and that the US dollar is the world's reserve currency. Now, they're discovering that all of these assumptions were built on a foundation of sand. But the implications extend far beyond individual retirees. When 76 million Americans simultaneously discover that their retirement plans are inadequate, the political and social consequences will be unprecedented. We're already seeing the early signs. Boomers who plan to retire are continuing to work, creating a bottleneck in the job market. For younger generations, Social Security and Medicare, already strained systems, will face impossible demands as millions more retirees than expected need government assistance. The housing market dynamics become even more complex when you consider geographic factors. Many boomers live in expensive coastal cities or desirable suburban areas. Their retirement plan often involves selling these expensive properties and moving to lower-cost areas. But this creates a geographic arbitrage problem. The areas where boomers want to retire, places like Florida, Arizona, and North Carolina, are seeing massive population influxes that are driving up local housing costs. Meanwhile, the areas they're leaving behind are seeing property values stagnate or decline. This geographic wealth transfer is creating winners and losers in ways that most people haven't anticipated. Some regions will see property values soar due to retiree migration, while others will see their real estate markets collapse as young people flee to find affordable housing and job opportunities. The commercial real estate crisis adds another layer of complexity. Many of the strip malls, office buildings, and retail spaces that define suburban America are becoming obsolete. The shift to remote work and online shopping isn't temporary. It's a permanent change in how Americans live and work. This means that entire categories of commercial real estate may never recover their pre-pandemic values. The boomers who own these properties, either directly or through real estate investment trusts in their portfolios, are facing permanent capital losses. Before moving forward, if this video made you stop and think, then the conversation doesn't end here. Leave a comment below and tell me what topic you want us to go deeper into next. This channel exists to break down what most people are never told, and your questions shape what comes next. If you want to understand these shifts before they become obvious to everyone else, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and turn on notifications, because what's coming won't be explained on the evening news, but it will be explained here. Consider the mathematics of what's happening. If the average boomer household has $400,000 in real estate equity and real estate values decline by just 20% across their portfolio, that's an $80,000 loss per household. Multiply that by 76 million boomers, and you're looking at over $6 trillion in wealth destruction. But the dollar debasement makes this even worse. Even if real estate values remain stable in nominal terms, the purchasing power of any cash proceeds is being eroded by inflation. Official inflation numbers may show 3 to 4% annually, but anyone who buys groceries, pays rent, or purchases healthcare knows the real inflation rate is much higher. The Federal Reserve is caught in what economists call a policy trap. If they raise interest rates to combat inflation, they crash the real estate market and bankrupt the government through higher interest payments on the national debt. Snorts. If they keep rates low to support asset prices, they fuel more inflation and debase the currency further. There's no painless solution, which means someone has to bear the cost of this economic imbalance. And that someone is the 127 million Americans who have their wealth tied up in assets that are about to be repriced downward. The timeline for this crisis is accelerating. Unlike the slow-moving demographic changes of the past, we're now seeing multiple factors converge simultaneously. The commercial real estate refinancing cliff happens over the next 3 years. Boomer retirement accelerates through the remainder of this decade. Government debt service costs are growing exponentially right now. This isn't a crisis that's coming in 10 or 20 years. It's happening right now, and most people are completely unprepared for it. The psychological denial around this crisis is understandable but dangerous. After decades of rising asset prices, most Americans have developed what behavioral economists call recency bias. They assume that because real estate and stocks have generally gone up for their entire adult lives, they will continue to do so forever. This assumption ignores the fundamental changes happening in our economy and demographics. We're transitioning from a growth-oriented economy built on an expanding workforce to a maintenance-oriented economy serving an aging population. This transition requires a complete rethinking of asset valuations and investment strategies. The international implications of this crisis are equally concerning. Snorts. The US dollar's status as the world's reserve currency has allowed America to export its inflation to other countries for decades. But as other nations develop alternatives to dollar-based trade, this privilege is ending. China, Russia, and other nations are actively building payment systems that bypass the US dollar. Central banks around the world are accumulating gold and reducing their dollar reserves. When the dollar loses its reserve currency status, Americans will face the full impact of decades of monetary expansion compressed into a very short time period. For boomers on fixed incomes, this currency devaluation will be particularly devastating. Their Social Security payments and pension benefits are denominated in dollars. So, as the dollar weakens, their purchasing power declines proportionally. The generational wealth transfer that's occurring isn't just about money changing hands. It's about the fundamental restructuring of American society. The post-World War II economic model that created the largest middle class in human history is ending, and what replaces it is still uncertain. Younger generations already burdened with student debt and facing limited economic opportunities will inherit this economic mess, while simultaneously being expected to support an unprecedented number of retirees through Social Security and Medicare. The political implications are staggering. When 127 million Americans realize that their life as work has been wiped out by forces beyond their control, the social contract that has held American society together will face its greatest test. We're already seeing early signs of this political upheaval. Voters are increasingly attracted to candidates who promise simple solutions to complex problems. The rational center of American politics is being hollowed out as people become more desperate and more willing to embrace radical alternatives. This crisis will also accelerate existing trends toward asset concentration. Those who understand what's coming and have positioned themselves accordingly will be able to purchase distressed assets at significant discounts. Meanwhile, those caught unprepared will be forced to sell at the worst possible time. The result will be an acceleration of wealth inequality that makes current levels look modest by comparison. A small group of informed investors will capture trillions of dollars in wealth from millions of unprepared Americans. But here's what you need to understand. This isn't inevitable for everyone. While the macro trends are unstoppable, individuals who understand what's happening can still protect themselves and even profit from these changes. The key is to stop thinking like the crowd and start positioning yourself for the new reality. This means reducing exposure to overvalued real estate markets, diversifying away from dollar-denominated assets, and building positions in assets that benefit from economic disruption rather than being destroyed by it. Physical assets with intrinsic value become extremely important during currency debasement. Precious metals, productive farmland, energy infrastructure, and other real assets maintain their worth even as paper currencies lose value. Geographic diversification also becomes crucial. Having assets in multiple countries and currencies provides protection against any single nation's economic or political problems. Most importantly, developing multiple streams of income that aren't dependent on traditional employment or retirement accounts provides security that no government benefit or corporate pension can match. The 127 million Americans who are about to lose their life's work aren't bad people, and they aren't financially irresponsible. They followed the conventional wisdom of their time and trusted in systems that worked for previous generations. But the economic and demographic realities of today are fundamentally different from anything we've experienced before. The strategies that worked in the past won't work in the future, and those who continue to rely on them will pay an enormous price. The choice you face is simple. You can continue believing that everything will work out fine, that the government will solve these problems, and that your retirement plans are secure. Or you can face the uncomfortable reality of our situation and take action to protect yourself before it's too late. Time is running out. The dominoes are already falling. The only question is whether you'll be standing in the right place when they are finished. The information I've shared with you today isn't designed to scare you. It's designed to wake you up. Because while this crisis is unavoidable for the economy as a whole, it doesn't have to be devastating for you personally. In the next few months, I'll be sharing specific strategies for protecting and growing your wealth during this transition. Make sure you're subscribed and have notifications turned on because the window for taking action is closing rapidly. Remember, in every crisis, there are winners and losers. The winners are those who see what's coming and position themselves accordingly. The losers are those who ignore the warning signs and hope that everything will return to normal. There is no normal to return to. The America your parents and grandparents knew is gone forever. But the America that's being born from this crisis could be even better if we're smart enough to navigate the transition successfully. The game isn't over for everyone, but it is game over for those who refuse to adapt to the new rules. The choice is yours. This is just one piece of the bigger picture. Subscribe if you want to understand the full context and how to better protect yourself in uncertain times. And the video on screen takes this story one step further.